This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Welcome back, everybody. We both know this has existed for, thousands of years, this art. And now I'm seeing it in a totally different light, how it's created, the ways that you can just change the art. And I'm talking about the art of glass blowing. Learned so much from these gentlemen since we've been getting together. They are behind Prairie Dog Glass, Santa Fe, New Mexico. And we're going to take a look at their careers more specifically. And we've basically got lessons on how to, blow glass projects and so much more. Looking forward to digging in with Patrick Morrissey and Spooner Marcus back on the program. Gentlemen, how you doing today?
We're good. We're good.
Wonderful to have you back with us.
Yeah. So anyway, right now, I'm currently not showing in any galleries, and I have worked with galleries for, like 40 years. And so, but since I started teaching college at 2 colleges and running my shop, I've become more like the incubator of artists, and so
he's the repository of knowledge.
Yeah. The elder. Yeah, I know. And so a lot of times, even though I still make artwork all the time, I'm also helping other people make artwork and help them make a living at it. So I'm always doing different stuff, So, So, and then Spooner, he's been doing for how many years now, Spooner?
Well, I started blowing glass in 1993, right out of high school. And so it was my first job out of high school, and I kind of just stuck with it. And so it took a few years to, get to this shop in particular. I haven't been here, but I've been here for 25 years now, just about.
Wow.
I think the better part of the story, Steve, is this: Mom told him he had to get a job.
That's right.
And so she found the ad in the paper and said, "You go get a job." I love how we fall on our own sword. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and that beginning put him here in the shop. And for me, I was doing ceramic work, and and matter of fact, I even have, I don't know if we can do it. I think we can. I even have a picture of me in high school, and that's how I got into glass, was through that, And so I went to Penland School of Crafts right out of high school. And go ahead, tell them the story. I'll find it.
So yeah, I mean, with my thing, I started at a little shop, and we just did juice cups, and so it was a production job, and so we just were making production work. In the beginning, that's what I was doing, and I slowly made my way up to Taos, and found a shop in Taos that I blew glass at, and learned how to do freehand glass, and kind of developed my ideas about what I wanted to do as far as artwork, when. And
Dale Chihuly was sponsoring that shop.
Yeah.
So, because he was native, and Dale Chihuly loves sponsoring native work.
Right.
When the school I teach at which is IAIA, Dale Chihuly started the first shop in glass blowing at IAIA. Like 40 in the 70s,
yeah,
early 70s. So that's the connection with Dale and the native work. So, and then I don't know if you can see it. Let's see if we can get close enough for you.
All right, we're looking at that looks like a huge piece of work. Pottery. Yes.
So
that's me in high school.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
And so how we all get stuck on something, and so that's what brought me here, right? Like I was doing pottery. I signed up for Penland School of Crafts, and I did a little bit of stained glass. So I said glass or pottery, and then of course the pottery was full, but the glass wasn't. So I got into glass, and then once I started, I just loved the colors so much that I just never went back. I mean, I still did pottery. I had my undergrad in ceramics, but I never stopped doing glass. It has been my focus ever since I was 19 years old.
Yeah, I think that once there's certain people that once they try it, it becomes something they can't really forget, and you basically have to you get hooked on it really quick. So, certain.
What, I want to ask both of you, and we started going down that road about it. What is the hook to glass blowing? Ceramics is fun. You can do different projects. There's a lot of latitude you have there in terms of your creativity. But what was the hook? Like, it sounds like, Patrick, for you, it was the color that got you.
Yeah. I think for me, it was the fact that I didn't know it at the time, but it put me into a state of flow. So, I could really lose my sense of time. I could, really get absorbed in the work. Like, when you're in flow, time passes quickly, and it just put me in that state every single time. And so that's what I think was the draw for me, was just doing it. And it's still today, even I'm really involved in, I really love doing it,
And there's always something to, when you gather the glass and you have on the stick, and even adding the colors or all that, but once you put it back in the glory hole and you're turning it, that's the moment that you get to reflect on where you're going. And it does it in a strange way, because you're looking at fire and you're turning something. So if you can imagine being hypnotized, right?
Yeah.
It just draws you right in. You know what I mean?
What he's talking about is it's a very intuitive, like, you have these choices that are infinite, possibilities, but you have to use your intuition to complete the project or complete your vision. And that's what is a big draw, I think, for a lot of people. So it's very intuitive.
It's been said that if you get lost in time doing something, you're doing the right thing, because you love it so much, you have the passion for it. I remember being in my teens and even in my 20s doing radio and building equipment and everything. I didn't even know what time it was. I just go into the basement and just go. And now it's 1 o'clock in the morning. It's like, I gotta go to bed. Really? Come on. I'm deep into something here. And there was always exploration. Let me try this. Let me tinker at that. And I got to believe it's kind of the same thing with glass. Like, I could try this. I could try this technique. What about if I put a handle here? Let me splash in this color there. Is it kind of like that?
It is, but also when we're dealing with a liquid, you're sort of prone to a time limit. You don't have to be, but it's funny. We love it when it's moving, and we start to snooze when it's not. So I've seen people work on pieces for like 16 hours, and it was a 2-man crew, and they pulled it up, and it was beautiful work. But in the end, it's like I feel stagnant at that point. I'm lucky if I could do an hour, on one piece, because I love the fluidness of what I'm producing, and that's a choice that we make when we're doing work. And let me just turn this here, Steve. So there you go. There's the piece that we worked on the other time. Now this one's not carved or sandblasted yet, but there's the piece that we blew during one of the shows.
Sure. And that's the one that the best description I have looks like a heart.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And now you can see it's not glowing anymore. And then I'll literally come in and carve it with like a diamond tools on. I'll literally saw down this line here and put like line and then cut little grooves in it. You know what I mean? And so this one is just like, that's the beginning of the piece. I spend more time cold working it. And we thought about doing cold working today, but then I realized I can't do that because in my shop where we have the cold work, I don't have Wi-Fi. So I couldn't bring this back, because we thought about doing like a cold working demo, because a lot of the work we do, we grind the bottoms of them, or we grind the sides, or we put holes in them. There's a lot of things you could do later. Like in Blown Away, one of the things that we find interesting is they're doing all this work, but they never talk about the cold work. And every one of those pieces in their little display has been ground or fed or cold worked to do stuff. So
on that note, here's something you can do with cold working. So this is one of my pieces. This is a book that was written for a show that's going around the country right now. I think it's going to go international too. But you see the designs on this piece that I used a stencil and then I sandblasted the designs into
better
the piece.
picture inside, don't you?
I may.
Yeah. Anyway, that book, Clearly Indigenous, is all Native American artists that blow glass. And so that's what the book was designed. And 7 of the people in this book made the work in the studio.
So here's a couple examples of
Wow.
what's possible with sandblasting.
So this is all carving. So he has a color only on the outside, and then all the other colors are inside. So he comes back and he actually carves, puts a resist on there, like a rubber stencil, and then he sandblasts through all the black to make those carvings, right? And so that's what. And so the red one on the side, that's a turtle base, right? Right? Yeah. And so and there's a story from his Pueblo about turtles, right?
So there's so many things you can do with cold working that you can't do while you're working it hot. So cold working, I mean, a lot of the time for me, blowing glass is only 20% of what I do, and the rest is cold work.
And so we're either sandblasting or grinding, some effect to change the outside. And it's what makes it a lot of fun. Like, you have all these options. Hey, we're showing your piece back here.
Oh yeah. Did you have a question?
I wonder now, outside of these intricate pieces with the cold and the hot, when you're doing a project and hot glass blowing, when you're almost done with it and it's put in the the refrigerator, if you will.
Yeah.
Are you already thinking about the next one? Like, the journey has almost ended because it's done. And are you thinking like, all right, that's great. Okay. Now on to the other one.
Funny. Yeah, that's funny you say that, because people will ask a lot of the time is what do you like to make the most? And I always tell them the next piece.
That's what I'm thinking. Like your brain is always churning.
Goes back to the action of doing it, because I really love blowing.
Yes.
What I like to say is I like to finish the piece. So I go even farther and I think about, it's not done yet, but I just can't wait to finish it, because, for whatever reason in my life, as you talked about earlier, starting with radio and stuff like that for me, I've always been in love with finishing the piece. I always think like it makes a statement that really makes me want to do the next one. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like, there's this thing where I call it the art graveyard. And the art graveyard is a box in your closet. And so what happens is you made the piece and you didn't really quite meet your standards. So you just say, I'll do it later. And you put it in a box. And next thing you know, you have 20 pieces in boxes in your closet. And, you kind of lose touch with them.
In my case, it's outside, up against the fence as yard art.
Yeah, yard art.
But, he's right. It's like a diary. Like, a lot of people will keep track of images of their pieces. We don't have that option. We have pieces that we've made, and then we, if we're not happy with it, or if we're still developing the idea, the pieces aren't necessarily, worth throwing away, but we keep them as a reminder of what we were doing, and kind of like a diary, and we can look back through time and say, oh yeah, that idea was really cool.
Yeah. And even more so, as the diary goes, I live on a year-long diary. And so because we live in places that have different climates, spring, summer, fall, winter, and so I always tend to find that in spring, I'm using greens and bright colors, and in winter, I'm doing more toned down stuff. And what happens is, if I make a piece in the winter and I'm not sure about it, I know if I look at it next winter, I'm going to understand it. So I give myself a year to really get a good look at something where it's no longer that I'm going to change this or change that. I'm like, oh, that's what it says. And the year-long cycle for a lot of things in life, a lot of people, the year-long cycle is something that we just do naturally. And so I like to work with that to really discover what I need. Because too many times my efforts, as we were talking about earlier, of saying, oh, I can't wait to make the next piece, gets too much in the way of actually looking at what I made, but a year later I get it.
So here's a piece. This is a cactus. So we've got, the little flower on top, and it's actually pretty large. It's probably about, 14 inches around. But I'm making all of these cactus. They're actually peyote cactus, and I'm going to be doing an installation in this museum in Texas for a show coming up in May. So I'm making a bunch of these peyote, basically to highlight, habitat loss and conservation around this plant medicine.
Wow.
So
how do you get that color? Because I've seen you both working before and adding color to it. Are you using green glass that you have available for that, or is it a mix of two colors?
Yeah, they make different colors that we use. In different applications. There's different forms of color. We have bar color and frit and powder, and then any combination we can make of that. We can use bar and frit together to get a certain effect. So there's a lot of variation. A lot of the time you'll do something and then forget how to do it or what combination you use, and you have to go revisit that whole idea again.
Amazing. Does it ever occasionally get old for either of you?
If I have to make the same thing over and over again a lot, yeah, we get a little slow. But at the same token, our job is to be fluid, right? So if I'm making chilies and I can make a lot, that effort, what it teaches me over and over again is I love working with a liquid. And so the balance of production is difficult sometimes, but sometimes that really fast stuff is so awesome because it's like I'm fluid over and over and over again. And that is so cool to be that in touch with a liquid.
Yeah. Well, for me, I really do appreciate, like I said, blowing glass. So production work for me is a very natural, pattern to fall into. So if I'm making something over and over again, it doesn't really matter what the end result is, as long as I'm blowing glass. So turning the pipe, being active, moving, all of the motions that it takes to make the piece.
And I think of it this way too. If you're doing the same piece over and over, or a version of the same piece over and over, for the rest of us, it's the first time we've seen it, whether we're watching it or the finished piece. So maybe sometimes you got to think of that. Like that's magic to the rest of us.
Right. Yeah. I've known that.
In teaching people how to make artwork, one of the things that I laugh the most of is where somebody's actually making a piece and they finally develop it and like, oh, I did it, I'm all done. I'm like, no, you just began. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they're like, no, we're finished. I'm like, you showed it to 5 people. What do you mean you're done? You know what I mean? Like, if you think about how many people are in the world, and if I make 1,000 pieces, how many people actually see them? You know what I mean? It's amazing how much it takes to get known and be seen. You know what I mean? And what it takes, for all that. Like for me, I do multimedia, and that in itself draws me to a whole nother avenue that I'm forging my steel and I'm blowing the glass and then I'm carving it, and then, and same with Spooner. I really got him into multimedia as well, even though what we're showing you is mostly glass, that doesn't mean that we don't do other work, you know what I mean? Because we do.
Yeah, glass definitely lends itself to mixed media stuff. So, metal and glass go together really well, like bronze. I like to do like bronze castings and kind of mix that with the glass. And then, of course, with Patrick's piece, like forging, an armature to blow into, or even just like other materials like leather or clay. That's a very common thing. And so when you start mixing those different mediums together, you get a different feel. It's not just glass.
What collectively, I'm doing the math here, like 80 years of experience ish of working
So,
with glass.
What's that? Right, having a hard time hearing.
Yeah.
I say collectively, between the two of you, it's like 70, 80 years of experience in blowing glass
Yeah.
in terms of the numbers.
So here's another piece of mine that's a bronze. It's cast bronze. It's a female torso.
Sure.
And then there's what it looks like from the side. And so it's got glass in the middle. So it's a sandwich, right? So on these pieces, when I do the bronze, I paint a wax on the surface. So it's actually a casting off a woman. And then what I do is I paint wax on the surface to make it look like it's tree bark or like elephant skin. And I do that on purpose because the female body and the women's being naked, they need to be proud, but they need to be protected. So the bronze is the protection of the soul, and the glass is the soul or the spirit or the vessel of the woman. So it's all that you have all these multiple layers of understanding, of art and what it means. And the torsos are interesting because people do full figures all the time, but traditionally speaking, when I conquer your culture and I conquer your state or whatever, I take all the sculptures and break all the heads off because they're worthless. Well, after a while, those bronzes or those torsos they all become a whole nother image. So it's not a particular woman, it's all women. You know what I mean?
Totally
so
got it.
I feel like once you lose the arms and legs and the head, you're just discussing everybody, and what protections need to be done. So
Well, interesting analogy there. When you look at that torso, the glass is fragile, but it's being protected by I guess the bronze, the metal on the outside. Really interesting, concept to look at it that way.
Yeah. And my friends are like, well, you can't do women. And I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself, who are they to tell me what I can and cannot do?
It's art.
It's art,
I've seen somebody call a white cylinder, on the ground, a cloud. It's all conceptual.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it really, I never went to art school or did anything like that. So conceptual art is something kind of new to me, and getting into that mode of thinking is definitely, there's so many options. Art is different to everybody. Yeah. You're going to pick up all kinds of different things. Individuals. It's subjective.
And really, when I make something, and as I showed you this piece, and we talked about it, that relationship is always what I'm interested in all my work. I'm always interested in other people's opinion because, like, I grew up in Connecticut, so stone walls mean something to me. I see stone wall, I'm like, oh, I'm getting near. There was too many rocks in the field, and I had to move them off to the side. And I just imagine all these people moving rocks forever just so they could grow something. And so, but when people look at my work and they see it, they bring a relationship that they grew up with, like, oh, I've always enjoyed the harps. Oh, it's a seaform. I mean, it doesn't matter. It sponsors an idea that they have. And when they see it and they tell me about it, I just add it to my library of thought, right? With the help of the audience.
I had no idea that you were from Connecticut.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I grew up in Port Jefferson, New York, where we're a ferry ride away to Connecticut. I was just up in Connecticut just before the holidays, and the stone thing, I get you. There's a town even called Stonington. Stone is big up there.
Yeah, I grew up in Trumbull, so that was right behind Bridgeport, which is the Port Jade Ferry, right?
Yeah, so, exactly right. How crazy is that? We're out of time, guys. I can keep going. I mean, especially seeing these projects, and it's not glass; it is art and amazing. You do so much there aside from the artistic end, lessons, parties, bachelorette party, and so much more. Thank you for bringing this to the attention of everybody. in terms of what you do, the craft, the fun, the art, and all of it. And you can see more. It's prairiedogglass.com, Santa Fe, New Mexico. Patrick Spooner, thank you for being here today. Always.
Thanks. You're a really good host.
Appreciate it. I appreciate that. I'm curious. I wish I could just teleport and be there right now. I'd be hanging out with you. It looks like it would be so much fun.
All right.
All right. Thanks,
Appreciate
Steve.
it.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.